Great show, you guys, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for having it. I have a quick question about my husband. I'm not an addict, but he is. He's about 10 months sober now. And, things, when he first started to go into the program and do stuff, like things got better relatively quickly, I'd say at about a couple months in. And, things started to really improve. And lately, problems have been coming up in our marriage with finances, and I kind of feel like financially he's still not working up to his potential. Like he's still kind of at a drinking job, and he's not paying the bills. And I sort of let it kind of go for the last 10 months because I know he's been trying to get his life together. But I'm just wondering, at what point, as a wife, can I expect him to contribute and hold up his end of our marriage, at least financially?
Yeah, Don, the thing that I think is most important is that people be honest with each other and express what they're feeling. So, a lot of it is about, how do you communicate, feelings you might be having with your husband, that you don't think he's meeting his potential, or, that you think now that he's had a chance 10 months to be sober, it's time for him to start doing more. And the big thing is, have you actually tried to speak with him about that? Has there been any sort of conversation?
Well,
Or are you just sort of holding on to it like a resentment and letting it build? Because that anger is really dangerous, and there's a lot of work that family members have to do along with.
But it is a good question. At what point do we become accountable? At what point is it, that you're sober, you have to start paying your bills?
Yeah, because
if that's what you're asking, it's like when are
you better enough to do
right? When is your free? When is it not progress? When is it? It's not progress, perfection type thing. Lowell?
Well,
as a guy that's been married a few times.
Can I ask Dawn a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Dawn, how long was he an addict?
15. I mean, ever since I've known him, he's been a really heavy drinker, and in the last 6 years, he got into some heavier stuff. And I got to be honest, I kind of did it with him. But then we had a kid, and, he said he wasn't doing anything for the last 2 years, but he was still drinking pretty heavily. So I'd say about 15 years at least.
All right, well, so my point is it took him 15 years to get sick, but in 10 months he's supposed to get completely well in 10 months when it took him 15 years to get sick. Are you doing anything for yourself? Are you going to Al-Anon? Are you doing anything for your own peace of mind? Because look, I sympathize with you because it's not an easy road to be married to, because I was married to an alcoholic too, and after I got sober, my wife continued drinking, and it was some pretty harrowing times. But are you doing anything for yourself? Are you involved in a support group yourself?
Yeah, I've been going to Al-Anon, and it took me a while, but I actually didn't get a sponsor, and she was actually the one who told me, because I had the bright idea that I should maybe talk to his sponsor and find out what's going on, and she said that I can't do that, and it's not appropriate for me to have contact with his sponsor, and that's fine. I've accepted that. I guess I'm just trying. We've had conversations, and I've talked to my sponsor about it with guidance from her. We've had conversations, my husband and I, about what I sort of expect him to start doing in terms of contributing financially to our household. And they haven't gone well, I'm going to be honest, and he hasn't. I feel like he has an inability to be honest about where he's at. He's sort of telling me, just give me some time, I'm getting it together, this is going on. To be perfectly frank, it sounds like he's acting like he's still drinking, even though I know he's not. He's just kind of blowing me off, and the fact of the matter is, I can't hold up. We have a child now, and the expenses keep growing, and they're unexpected. This is our first kid. There's expenses coming out of everywhere, and I feel like I'm sinking, but I don't want to put too much pressure on him because I'm afraid it's going to make him drink again.
Don, a lot of the things that you're speaking about have to do with what's called transactional natures of a relationship. And people get into relationships where they think that they give something, and then for that they expect something back from the other person.
It's like a sliding scale.
Yeah, sort of.
Quid pro quo.
Yeah, quid pro quo. And a lot of what you're talking about is that you feel sort of angry about the fact that he's not keeping up his side of that transactional relationship.
Right.
And that's really something that has to be worked out with a therapist, I think. You know, you have to be sitting there with someone that's a good intermediary between yourself and your husband, so that you can express in a safe environment what's going on with you, and then your husband can also feel likewise, you know, be able to say what's going on with him. And I think that you'll probably find that there's a lot of underlying issues. You know, when people first get sober, there's not just the compassion that's needed for the person that's getting sober, and then time that they need to figure out who they are now as a sober person and what they're going to do. But from the other side of it, from your side, there's generally a lot of resentment and anger that's built up, you know, over years and years of having to deal with an addict and all the problems that come along with that. And then also okay, you're sober now and everything should go the way it's supposed to go, and you owe it to me. And you know, the process of healing, not just the alcoholic or the addict, but the family relationship is one and the same. You can't just have him get sober and have everything else work. It's all part of the process of recovery and sobriety. It's that family work, it's him staying on track, it's him developing, and then also the relationship recovering from all that damage.
But is he still, I mean, I don't really know anything about the 12-step program he's in. I just don't, is 10 months, like, I mean, is that
well, recovery is
still new?
You have a comment about this?
Yeah,
Lowell?
you know, one thing I would suggest that you do is to go to some open AA meetings to see speakers. So these are meetings where you don't have to be an alcoholic to go, and you can hear the stories of other alcoholics, and you'll begin and see that process, so that you can learn about what's going on in his program and with those steps. And you're going to find one of the great things that happen if you go to some of these open meetings with speakers, you're going to find out that your situation isn't that unique, and that there are solutions to your situation, and you can begin to live in the solution instead of living in the problem, because it is a process, and it's a long process. I remember, you know, my wife and I, or my wife at the time, you know, we met in a bar. I was playing in my blues band, and she was in the audience. And like 5 years into our marriage, one day we said, like, where did I meet you? You know, I mean, because we had changed so much in sobriety, we had to completely rebuild our relationship around not around Jack Daniels anymore. It was, you know, we actually had to begin to communicate. So it's a process.
And in your case, it didn't work.
Well, we stayed married 18 years, and
That's
then
a long time.
Yeah, and then we parted. We decided we were bored with each other, and we held hands in front of the judge when we got divorced. It was a great non-resentful divorce.
Wow.
So.
Well done. I hope this has been helpful. One of the things I suggest is that if you go to Facebook and put in KLEAN Radio, KLEAN with a K, you can join our Facebook page, and then you can also reach out to us through cleantreatmentcenter.com. There's a phone number there, and we can help you get to meetings or find other resources throughout the community.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the call.
Thank you so much, Don, and take care.
Thanks.
So you seem to be feeling better when it comes to therapeutic talk. So maybe if only the questions and all we talk about is therapy, you're on your A game.
I'll do my therapy.
What did
thing.
you call it? Transactional what?
Transactional relationships. Yeah, it comes out of what's called systems theory, but it talks about that there's different types of relationships, and one is transactional. And it's very common where people get into a relationship and they think, oh, I want to be in a relationship for my stuff. And then they say, you need to be in this relationship because you're going to give me this stuff. And so it's the transaction that you pay the bills and you do whatever, and you clean the house, the other one cleans the house. And
everybody's keeping score.
Right, everybody's keeping score. And
that's not good.
Right, no.
Right,
We have to take a break real quick. But
and the number here is 877-8830-830. That's 877-8830-830. You're listening to KLEAN Radio.
Welcome back to KLEAN Radio. So we were just, it was a very interesting call from Don. It's really, I see that a lot at our treatment center, and I see that a lot with people that I work with that have problems with addiction and problems with drugs, is that there's so much family work that needs to be done. And I think just, only fairly recently have people started to really look at the family system and how everything's really affected in the way it really needs to be done. And
well, for years you'd hear about, people making fun of Al-Anon in certain 12-step groups, which I can't think of anything more dangerous than making fun of a group that helps the family members.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I've heard it called the sisterhood of eternal vengeance. And what happens when an Al-Anon dies? Somebody else's life flashes before their eyes. There's all those Al-Anon jokes. But the interesting thing about that call is, and I've seen that with a lot of people I've worked with, is that the spouse wants instant results because they've suffered for so long, and then they think, okay, and again, the drug is gone, so therefore the problem is gone. Well, no, the problem is actually just starting to get revealed.
Right, and I think, and for the spouse as well, that they start realizing that, I'm actually really furious and angry.
Or I'm really married.
And I volunteered for this. Why did I do this for 15 years? And, that first year of sobriety is so difficult. It's, the first birthday, the first golf trip, the first fishing trip, the first baseball game, the first holiday. And when I work with people, it's just getting them through those first things every time. And often the people I work with, they'll say, my wife wants more of this, that. And I said, you just got to focus on just getting your sea legs. In the sobriety thing.
I think it's tough for people that haven't had a problem with alcohol or drugs to understand how difficult it is to actually stop. And it's not just the decision of making that decision, okay, I'm not going to use anymore, or turning it over to a higher power, or whatever it is that gets them to actually become sober. But then every decision after that of working your way into sobriety, it's very, very difficult. It's all new. And a lot of people have a lot of what we call identity arrestment, where they've they became arrested in their development at a point when they started using. So a lot of people who started drinking when they're 14, 15 years old and they get sober when they're 30, they're 15 years old.
Well,
from a developmental standpoint.
Judah, that's why I look like I'm 35 years old.
That's right.
Because I started when I was 16. See, no, it's true, and I actually, I find that true in myself. I like the company of men who are 20 years. Younger than me. I mean, I relate more to the younger guy than guys my own age. They seem old to me.
I was going to say that's a whole different fellowship.
Yeah,
but,
no. Well, a lot of that's just experience, right? It's where you are in your life, and you form your identity and you have your life experience. But when you're heavily intoxicated for 10, 15 years, you really miss out on a lot. You don't realize it.
Well, you never work through an issue. You never work, she left me, I'll go get drunk, that solved it. You've never worked through a breakup. You've never worked through losing a job. You've never worked, it's just medicate
all those feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think that with Dawn's case and with her husband who's 10 months sober, he's probably waking up and realizing, oh my goodness, I have all these responsibilities. I have a kid, I have a wife, and there's a lot of guilt involved in that too. And
there's a great solution: procrastinate.
Correct.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine, and one of the reasons I didn't get involved in the phone calls because I've never been married. Both of you are married. You've been married a few times, but I can't image anything scary.
Is it like a dig?
Like a few times. I'm getting a lot of practice in Judah.
No, but
just two.
I mean, it's almost like you're waking up out of a blackout.
Yeah.
And you wake up one day and you look around as you're trying to get sober, and you look around and you go, did I do that? Like, is this mine?
Yeah,
is this my creation? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Well, my second wife and I, though, made the decision. We were both sober that even though we had got married in an inebriated state and been married a couple of years, but now we had, a son together, and I had custody of my daughter from my first marriage. And we said, we're going to do the right thing, and we're going to build a relationship between each other. And raise these kids, and once they were raised, then we decided, okay, that we've done our thing, and that was a bit of a sacrifice, but the payoff is great. And even with my ex-wife now, I mean, she's a family member. I mean, I fly her out here. She's some of my girlfriends haven't understood that too well, but she's a member of the family, and that's come from recovery and sobriety, and
that not everything has to be. That the end doesn't have to be like.
Well, I think everybody assumes that there's going to be like a golden prize at the end of the rainbow, or a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and the reality is that.
Well, not me, since I'm not married,
well,
but.
but these things are difficult, and often one person will get sober and they'll find out that the relationship was about one person enabling the other person to use, and there's different reasons why people do that, and I think that's why I think therapy is important, because sometimes therapy isn't about fixing something to be what people imagine in their head it is. Sometimes therapy is about figuring out that things aren't going to work, and that there needs to be a positive, directed way of ending a relationship.